Hello, my name is James Pirie and I'm Vice President for UK Logistics and Planning at Arla Foods. So who are Arla Foods? Arla Foods is a farmer-owned dairy cooperative founded on the idea of collaboration, equality, democracy and collective growth. Arla is a cooperative owned by dairy farmers and we are committed to creating the highest value for their milk. We work with retailers to grow their dairy category and food companies to help them innovate. We supply much loved brands including Lurpak, Anchor, Cravendale and Costello, as well as retail branded products. I'd just like to take a few minutes to talk about the current context. At Arla, we've been working through a global pandemic, COVID-19. Our ambition is not to survive during these challenging conditions, but to thrive. To do this, we've been guided through the following principles. Our people, ensuring the safety of our colleagues in terms of physical safety and well-being, both in terms of physical and a mental perspective. And number two, business continuity and supply. As a dairy supplier, we have a critical role in feeding the nation. Therefore, we have had to remain agile, flexible during volatility. I would like to talk to you firstly about the following topic: managing crises and creating an agile organisation in the context of the C-19 pandemic and Brexit. C-19 did challenge Arla to rethink and transform their supply chain model. The scale and speed in which C-19 developed did challenge our thinking and approach. Crises have been described by some theorists as a receding tide. It reveals the rocks beneath the surface that were there all along. Just think about that. It reveals rocks beneath the surface that were there all along. Therefore, I'm not going to tell you anything new in this session. However, I want to share with you my personal reflections of C-19 and what do I think were the rocks exposed by COVID-19. Some new behaviours were forced by the crisis, and they will stock as new habits after the pandemic has receded. While some organisations will likely resume operations after the crisis without looking back, others will be carefully examining lessons learned and regarding them as opportunities to improve their operational effectiveness. So I talked a lot about COVID-19 being a receding tide, unearthing rocks that were already there. And the first rock that I want to talk about is modus operandi. So we have changed the way we work. So remote working, office working, modernisation. So the pandemic has forced Arla into driving new habits: remote working, distance learning, video conferencing, home office equipment, e-commerce, delivery service. This has allowed us to see many opportunities to reduce travel and physical co-location on an ongoing basis, having been forced to master the effectiveness of remote collaboration. Consider what this could mean in terms of Arla's external value proposition. What could this now mean in terms of talent retention, talent attraction, having much more flexibility in terms of our working practices? Consider also what this means for our sustainability agenda. Reduced road miles, reduced travel, work-life balance. There are many opportunities that we will embrace as part of the global pandemic. So a question for the audience: how do you intend to change your habits as you rebound into the new normal? And I moved on to the second reflection and learning, which was about site and central functional relationships. So site being our dairies, our warehouses, our operating sites, central functions being head office, some of the central functions. And I've been at Arla for 9 years. And during C19, for me, it was the first time it felt like a total business momentum. Sites and central functions have never been closer, but why? During C19, key focus areas have been colleague safety, business and supply continuity, key workers who have supplied the nation, and we have celebrated key workers. We've redefined the front line. We have truly commercialised our value chain. And these are shared values that travel across functions. And we will need to redefine these values as we redefine and rebound into the new world. I now want to talk about democratized decision making. So at Arla, we drove the democratization of decision making, which was underpinned through data democratization. And the reasons we did this is because our decision making, our fleet of foot, our agility, our speed of decision making had to be faster. Why? Because the external environment was moving so fast. But what does data democratization actually mean? It means that everybody has access to data. The goal is to have anybody use data at any time to make decisions with no barriers to access or understanding. You know, at Arla, we talk about business leaders versus functional leaders. And the democratization of data is an enabler, a catalyst to deliver business leaders versus functional leaders. As the logistics head at Arla during C19, I had access to our EPOS reports, MPD updates, commercials, technical data, PPE provisions, PPE usage, external benchmarking, data points with industry stakeholders such as DEFRA, etc. And what have we facilitated as a consequence? The democratization of knowledge. And what is this? The democratization of knowledge is the acquisition and spread of knowledge across and deep within the business. And why has this been really important? Well, it's reduced the time spent searching for information. An important study was done by McKinsey, and McKinsey said that 20% of your time at work is spent searching for information. 20% of your time at work is spent searching for information. So we needed to reduce that risk. We needed to reduce the duplication of work or lost knowledge. And by democratizing data, knowledge, and in turn decision making, it improved the speed and rhythm of the business. The next area I'd like to talk to you about is communication and the effectiveness of communication. Virtual playgrounds breaking down boundaries. But clearly we've needed to match the technology to the task. If I'm honest, I also feel that as Arla, we've defaulted to using the technology that is most conventional and familiar. And we can improve by making our intentions clearer with the use of virtual technology. So at Arla, we've probably migrated a little bit from a physical meeting culture to a virtual meeting culture. And that's something that we still need to face into. How do we rebalance the virtual versus physical? And we need to calibrate that a bit more effectively and become more liberated through technology. C19 has also given me some personal reflections, and I think it's, for many people, it's highlighted the need for inclusion, and that's a personal reflection. During C19, I've done a lot of research on the behavioural and emotional considerations in relation to lockdown measures and self-isolation. My emotions have been as volatile as consumer shopper behaviour. Pre-C19, I'd commissioned a piece of personal research, FIRO-B, and it told me my need for control is high and my need for inclusion is low. C19 has challenged this dynamic, working within logistics, new area, new learning. The need and requirement to empower and to lead through others, to relinquish control, to empower the team. So my need for inclusion is higher than I thought. I get fueled by other people. And there's some other bits of research that I think would be useful to do, which is areas such as the social complexity theory and the diversity of situations. So the question really I pose to myself in this space is how can I feel emotionally connected in a digital landscape? The other area I'd like to talk to you about is the industry in which we operate, which is within dairy, which is a high volume, low margin industry. So the value in this equals business continuity, supply continuity, consumer choice and availability. We need to deliver that, but also be considerate of how do we reduce complexity, and that's come to the fore during C19. So we put measures in place of how do we increase throughput to ensure supply and availability, reduce SKU density in store, reduce choice arguably for our consumers during a pandemic, but improved availability is something that we've had to create a balance for. Improved cost base. So C19 has created changes in consumer behaviour. C19 has been a catalyst to drive changes in behaviours of our retail partners. Arla had to think their core products, operations and value systems in order to survive and stay relevant. C19 has been a contributor to future economic conditions, i.e. the recession. The cost versus service and value equation will need to be considered very carefully. And what is the tipping point where increased costs create marginal gains in value or diminishing value returns? So the question that I continue to have during C19 is our cost to serve compatible with a high volume and low margin industry? And the global pandemic in terms of C19 has driven us to face into some of those questions. The next part that I'd like to talk to you about is agile and flexible food supply chains. The whole industry has had to respond in real time to market shifts and new challenges in order to create a more agile supply chain and resilient business. Examples being simplification, colleague ways of working. We've talked a lot about the inflexibility of our value chains, our ability to react with pace, but C19 has proven that we can. Our agility will need to be showcased even further in the future. Looking for fresh opportunities in demand areas. We will need to be nimble, ready to forge new partnerships to feed the future consumer. For many of us, the toughest leadership test is arguably still looming. How to bring a business back into an environment where economies are reeling. It will require innovation, reimagination, and reform. In order to come back stronger, Arla will reimagine our business model as we thrive into a new normal. Think about Madonna as an example. How has Madonna evolved in terms of her music, her tastes, her image? You know, an example of how Madonna has evolved during these generations and has had to be agile and be at the forefront of that change. And there's a lot of learnings that we can apply in different industries into the world of business. But for me, we have 5 to thrive, and our ability to thrive will be underpinned and guided through the following considerations. So what do we need to be considerate of to very much thrive in the new normal? The first is a startup mindset. We need to have a startup mindset. We need to favour action over research. We've established a brisk cadence to encourage ability and accountability, which we need to continue as we move forward. The other key consideration is we need to have people at the core, a people-centric agenda. We need to rethink our business model, our operating model, based on how our people, our colleagues work best. McKinsey's study again showed that 60% of businesses surveyed that their new remote sales models were proving as much or more effective than traditional models. So we've proven that we can operate effectively, even more effectively, in new practices. So my question really for myself and to you is, what does this mean for you in terms of you and our businesses looking forward? The acceleration of digital is something that has been spoken about quite a lot. It's already a cliche. The C-19 crisis has accelerated the shift to digital. The best businesses are using digital analytics to combine sources of data with their own insights to make better and faster decisions and strengthen their link to customers and consumers. And that's something that's very much a consideration for Arla's future strategy as we move forward. Very much having a purpose-driven customer plan. Understand what customers will value post C-19 and develop new use cases and tailored experiences. C-19 hasn't necessarily created new trends, it's accelerated existing growth trends that were very much part of Arla's strategy. I'd like to finish with this final slide, and I think it very much resonates with me and hopefully with yourself. During the current crisis, businesses have worked faster and better than they dreamed possible just a few months ago. Maintaining that sense of possibility will be an enduring source of competitive advantage. I hope you found this talk useful. All the very best, and please stay safe and please stay healthy. Thank you very much.